The mid-60s Russ Conway and side saddle. And I've been a bit cheeky because I'm talking to... Good afternoon, Nadya.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for coming in to see us. And we're talking about the Side Saddle Association.
Yes.
Is that right? So, to my mind, normal horseback, you straddle the horse and get on with it. But now, side saddle's a whole new bag of worms, isn't it? Your balance, posture, and how you get your grip. Because there's a pommel on this. Will you tell me all about it?
Right. Oh well. Ladies were not frowned upon for riding many years ago. Going back centuries and centuries, the men didn't like them to ride astride. It was not really the elegant thing to do.
It wasn't ladylike.
It wasn't at all ladylike, no. So they did originally let them sit literally sideways. They didn't have any pommels in those days, but they were led by a groom. They just sat sideways because their skirts were so big anyway. And then this went on for a century or two, but the ladies gradually started to ride astride, and it wasn't liked at all. Eventually, they conceded that the ladies could ride side saddle, but in doing this, they put one pommel on the top, which was called the fixed head. And the result of this was that they regularly got killed because they were not safe to be sat there, because there was nothing to really hold them in the saddle and they weren't balanced to ride sideways. So when it came to the late 1830s, they decided they would design a thing called the leaping head, but it moved 2 or 3 times in its positioning until it eventually became safe. So by the 1920s, side saddle began to really take its place in society. Unfortunately, during the 2 world wars, ladies' finances, type of lifestyle changed completely, and side saddle died out. A lot of side saddles went into the attic, and therefore all the ladies rode astride. We hunted astride, we did everything astride, and it was accepted. The men had given up by now trying to control us. Then in the 1970s, 2 or 3 ladies got together and decided that the elegance of side saddle should come back, and it would be very nice to see. So they formed an association which was then called the Ladies Side Saddle Association in 1974. And the idea was to promote side saddle, educate people on how to fit it to the horse and how to ride saddle so that it was safe for you and comfortable for the horse, and bring back the elegance of side saddle. So the association today still is working towards those aims. So the side saddle next year will have been running 40 years. During that time, we have promoted side saddle, we've had seminars and clinics, and the art of riding side saddle is something that takes a little time to get used to. The difficulty is the horses have changed shape. From the 1930s, when we had the very fine thoroughbred types, to today, when we ride lots of ponies, warm bloods, part breds, and large animals up to 18 hands. And the saddles can no longer be made in this country because the skill has died, the craftsmen have gone.
Does that come down to cost now as well?
It does come down to cost, but it also comes down to the fact that the saddles are not really balanced. The new ones, they don't seem to be able to get the tree right. To design and produce a tree today, there are 2 tree makers that have been trying to make them, and they have just gone out of business because it's a limited field and they can't do it. They were about £5,000 fully made. Whereas the ordinary saddles that we buy and we get out of the attics, we refurbish them.
Would that be one-to-one for a side saddle? Is that designed for the person?
It's designed, each saddle was made to fit the rider and the horse. So it was measured in inches for the horse, from what we call the cut-back head, which was the middle of the saddle centre, down to the cantle, which is the back in the centre, and that was measured in length. So could be 16, 15, 18, 19 or 20 inches, depending on the length of the horse's back. And then you take the length of the lady's thigh. And to get her correct length, you would go from her hip joint to the back of her knee. And most ladies average about 16 inches or 17 inches. And some ladies have a bit longer thigh than that. So the saddle has to fit the rider, and therefore the majority of saddles are 16 or 17 inches long.
So how does the style of the saddle differ from an ordinary one? Because there's a pommel where one leg goes, and the other leg, you have to have something for your balance, surely.
That's right. The saddle is designed in a little bit of a horseshoe shape to make it easier to imagine. And the opening of the horseshoe towards the horse's head. And it has a head on the top, which is designed and built within the tree. It's forged within the tree. The tree's made out of wood and metal, and the bit that comes up is usually metal. That is called the fixed head, and your top leg, which is from your right leg normally, but it can be the left if you have it on the offside, and that goes round that so that your right calf lays against the side of the saddle flap. And your left leg, they put in this leaping head, and it's shaped to fit around your left thigh so that your leg is held in place. When there is an emergency, you can grip up from your left thigh to your toe to heel, and it literally lifts up.
So balance and posture is different from riding astride?
Entirely different. We ride with our balance along the outside of the top of the right thigh, whereas when you're riding astride, it's the inside of both thighs. And we keep the outside muscle, the inside is pulled in. So we ride on the outside of the right thigh, we hook the right leg around the top, the fixed head, and the left leg sits normally as you would astride in the normal position.
Now how does this work? Okay, trotting along the glass, but can you leap?
Oh, you can jump, yes. Lady in Ireland this year, I think it was 6'10" was the record height that she's just jumped. Yes, you can hunt, you can jump, and when we do our classes at the shows, we do equitation jumping, which is style over fences. We do working hunter. They do all sorts of things nowadays, but they don't show jump as such as you would astride. We have more or less jumps to the right than we would the left for the balance.
We'll have a little break for some music. This is fascinating, and we'll have a little talk. Just excuse me while I push this little green button. And of course, horse with no legs. First equestrian thing I could think of. County Links Radio, we're live and we're talking to Nadya about side saddle.